Welcome back. Welcome in. It's Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. This is a Paramount podcast. Maybe I should be like you, Chris. This is a Paramount 24/7 CBS Sports podcast. Maybe Skydance would be in there too.
Yeah, make sure you get everybody, whoever writes the checks, make sure you say their name.
Warner Brothers Discovery, maybe one day. I have no idea. Um,
I don't know. My
also, I
checks
know.
still come from CBS, so I just gotta say CBS.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe, I mean, technically me too, I guess. But no,
Yeah,
my Paramount email probably says, I don't know, one of these years we'll get this right. Then they'll
yeah.
change it again, too. So yeah, what do I know? Not much. Except I did last week take a hammer to the panic button when we met. It's behind me somewhere over here. Maybe I can find it. Don't need it. Didn't need it last week. Um, Not to say that you were panicked. Not to say everybody was panicked, but some people were. Of course, they were alarmed because man, 72 hours had passed and there'd been little to no activity apart from a Division two transfer, which again made sense because he'd been in the portal since like December 1st. Lo and behold, nearly 2 dozen players sign on in the past 7 days, and the complete opposite has happened. It's how many Big 12 titles can this team win?
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, that is the way the wind blows this week, I guess. Because yeah, I was in. I can't remember if I said that my panic meter was unplugged, but I did say on Monday, hey, check back in with me Thursday, Friday. Give me a couple days to see what they're doing and who they're going to. Because we knew we didn't know, right? Like we knew that they had guys in, and we also knew they had guys in that we didn't know about, and that things were going to happen that no one knew about. And sure enough, they got on kind of a roll, added a bunch of guys. 26, Mike, let me check my math on this. Is 26 greater than the 12 to 15 that Rich Rodriguez referenced on National Signing Day?
All right, so I'm going to get in trouble for this one way or the other because he said they needed like 12 to 15 transfers. And that was right after that he had said like some of their guys, some of the freshmen are good in practice. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody asked who are the good freshmen in practice. That's because I was like, whoa, sir, excuse me, only 12 to 15 transfers? I couldn't wait to jump back into that pool. And then he said, well, impact transfers.
Yeah.
All right. There's no way they weren't going to add twice as many, perhaps. And they're already having them, maybe are on their way to doing that using your math. I guess my question would be, and we'll get to this, are they done with either one of those categories, overall transfers or impact transfers?
Well, here let's put a number on it. What was the number last year? 81 new players, right?
They'll go under, right? Oh no, overall? Ooh.
Yeah. So transfers in high school players, all that stuff, junior college guys. I think there was 81 new players for 2025. 81 players that were added in the offseason. Right now, because they lost the punter from Australia, so the letter of intent high school slash junior college guys is down to 48, and there's 26 as of the moment that we're recording this 9 a.m. on Monday transfers. 26 plus 48, 74. Are they going to add eight more people before the fall?
That's the number because doing the math, there are some, let's say, unresolved roster questions
Yes.
that maybe one was resolved yesterday. Quentin Goins goes into the transfer portal. You had these, are they DSAs? Are they not DSAs? Try to do the best we can on that. And it appeared there's between like 6 and 8 left. And you're talking right in that number there would get them to about 81. Seven more, I think, would make it 81.
Yeah.
Um, it'll be right near it. If it's under, it's by one, maybe two. Don't know how they could go over. Like it just that seems like way too many people relative to the 105. Because again, here's the thing: 105 players, you can exceed by your number of designated student athletes. There's a couple of ways that those players qualify as it. If you're a designated student athlete at another school, you maintain that the entire time. It's not like you can go from a walk-on to a scholarship player at another school. If you're recruited before a certain date, it's harder and harder to find those now. So you're not going to add players that don't count. And your players on your roster, a lot of them are going to disappear after your first year as a DSA because they realize they're not part of the plan. And you may try to hold on to one of those players for a couple of years to see if he can develop into, I don't know, maybe like a punter or a kicker or a rotational offensive lineman, but few and far between. So it's going to be pretty close to the 105 Whereas last year it was not. They were over by what, 15, 17, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll be right. It might be right on that number, Chris. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 81 again.
Yeah. All right. Well, trying to break down 81 players, which, well, I guess right now we're focused on transfer portal. So it's still pretty difficult to break down 30 plus players. Right now at 26, could end up 30 plus. Let's instead go position by position.
Mhm.
Um, that's our theme here for today's podcast. Go position by position. We'll talk about who's coming in. One of the things that everybody's doing on the board is this position better now than it was in 2025? And I think there's a something that needs to be, if you and I are going to go that route and answer that question, something that needs to be clarified here. Because, for instance, running back.
Mhm.
My thoughts on running back in August of 2025 are way better than my thoughts of running backs what actually happened in 2025. Now that was a lot, mostly due to injuries, of course, like Jaheim White getting injured in game, like the first half of game two, Ty Edwards having a breakout performance in game three, immediately getting hurt. So, what your thoughts were at the beginning of the year, or really what happened? Which one do we want to do? Where we were in fall camp of 2025, where you and I, you and I were thinking of those positions, or do we want to actually say, hey, we think where they are right now is better than what happened in 2025? Like, do we want to take a retrospective look back
Ooh.
on it?
Ooh. Because then I was thinking, let's treat it like the portal is done and you're entering the off season because maybe the portal is done, but then you just totally discount what happens during the regular season.
Yeah.
And then well, I have another wrinkle I'll throw in that we can get into the conversation. I don't know, Chris. There's not a bad answer there.
Well, we can just kind of wing it as we go along because, yeah, I think we are going to have to say also whether or not that position is done or whether it should be done.
hmm. Yeah, okay.
All right, let's get right into it then. Quarterback. Let's just jump right into the most important position on the field. Um,
Well, here's why we need to designate things because I feel a heck of a lot better about it today going into next year than I did probably at any point of last offseason going in. Just because I
so
kind
at
of trusted
quarterback,
Fox. Yeah, I don't know how they were going to like work with the five or six quarterbacks and figure out the right one. And then, do you really think that like we had a podcast and I was like, I don't think Mark Gibbs is going to be the starter for very long. I think it'll be Jalen Henderson because his skills fit. Part of that was right. The other part was not right.
yeah,
And so I also wondered, are they I had never had Scotty Fox on my radar until he was starting a quarterback, it felt like. But now there's fewer choices, there's fewer practice snaps to designate. And I just, while you might like their freshman quarterbacks, one in particular seems like there's no reason not to be really gung ho about Jaron Hughley, maybe even John Johnson too. Um, Probably don't want them on the field in 26 much. Maybe you can put them in packages or blowouts or whatever, but if they're starting games, you're in a bad spot. And that would bring me to this. Um, are you sure? Not that one or both these guys, but that both these guys are going to get you through. You can't predict that. Is there another quarterback out there they bring in? I don't know how they make that happen.
yeah.
And just I feel a lot better about it because I know more about Scotty Fox and I've seen what he can do, and I had not seen that from anybody this time last year. Michael Hawkins is not the just wipe your brow, whew, you feel a whole lot better as a backup or as a starter. So it's not perfect, but for me, it's an improvement and a better grade for sure.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Okay, because we look at it, we look at the six. I guess there was six on the roster last year, or seven. I forgot. I see Scott Keen declared that he was not transferring nor returning. So, but Max Brown, Max Anderson, still the same thing. Scotty Fox. Those are three guys that are returning. Presumably, all three will be better. And like you said, we feel better now about Scotty Fox than we did a year ago, Scotty Fox, because we've seen it. We've actually seen tangible evidence that he can be at least a capable power four quarterback. Incoming three freshmen, again, you'd want to avoid them playing if you can, unless they're just something special. So, and then you come to Hawkins versus what left. And it's like, yeah, a lot left. Markio, Wilkins, Henderson, those are all three guys that played at some point this season, started at some point this season. But Hawkins, even with his deficiencies, I feel like is a guy that's more tailor made for what Rich Rodriguez wants to do on offense. So I think in that mold, in an improved 1 year improved Scotty Fox plus a more tailor made quarterback in Michael Hawkins for this offense, I feel better about quarterback right now than I did a year ago.
Yeah, Chris, let me read this to you from what date was this? This was signing day.
Okay.
We will probably still look at one from the portal and get an experienced guy because what we went through this year, gosh, you hope it never happens again. But if it does, it'd sure help to have another experienced guy who could possibly win some games for us. That's Rich Rodriguez when somebody asked him about what are you going to do about quarterback in the portal? Was it going to be Scotty Fox? Was he the guy? No, we already went over this. But does Michael Hawkins check every box there? Because I will tell you, while he has been in college a year longer, Scotty Fox has started more games and taken more snaps. Is Scotty Fox your experienced backup? Maybe, but you didn't get that like depth of experience and a guy who's a junior who's made it through another year. But then I would say, what does that matter? Because everything is new. So if you gotten like Tyler Huff to somehow have another year of eligibility, you know, and he's in town and he can help you out or start, it's a hard way to satisfy that. If they had somebody who had more experience, I understand that Hawkins is a fit for physically what Rich Rodriguez wants to do. Does he come with that body of wisdom and experience, being a starter, prepping for games several weeks in a row? Yeah, he did 2 years ago, not this year. Not sure it's a perfect sync of what they wanted and what they got. Nothing wrong with who they got though.
Yeah. Um, Running back. It's all new.
Don't feel as
All
good about this.
I was gonna say this, and this is, I think, the position more than any other position where it's like, hey, you got to kind of, my answer changes on, hey, do you feel as good about running back right now as you did in preseason 2025 or postseason? Like preseason 2025, I would take the 2025 running back room all the time. Postseason 2025, after seeing the injuries and so then it's like, do you think 2026 can be better than 2025? And the answer is yes, because the top two running backs both got hurt. Other guys were banged up. Um, yeah, I mean, more than just the top two. I mean, Hubbard got banged up. Everybody got hurt. They were just churning through guys at that position. But looking at where it is now and looking at where it was then, you felt like that was a pretty solid room led by Jaheim White, and thought you had some other pieces, big guys, small guys, fast guys, outside, inside. Now you got Cam Cook, who I think that's a great addition. But then you got a whole lot of unknowns, which I think raises questions in that room, and also raises the fact they may not be done there.
No,
No,
no, they're not done. We've been over a name from Big 12. He's been in town and visited. I don't know that gives you what you're looking for here. It's probably a bigger guy who can maybe be Ty Edwards, similar comps there probably. Maybe he's a lead blocker. I don't know about that. Chris, their top six running backs last year missed games to injuries, and that goes all the way down to Tyler Jackledge. So can that ever happen again? I don't know. But if for example, like Cam Cook carried the ball 295 times last year, that really gets my attention. I wonder, I mean, he's not, hopefully you don't have to do that again because you have enough guys who can spread it around, but what effect does that have on him in 2026? That's a fair question, I think. And then beyond him, who's your backup? Don't know. And then I don't think
I think your question about the carries is like extremely important. Extreme because it's something I was trying to look it up really quick, and maybe I'll try to look it up again after I pass this baton back to you here. But there was something in regards to like the NFL, because my son, NFL fantasy draft, and he's getting ready, Saquon Barkley, and it was like, hey, he had 345 carries last year, Saquon Barkley, and it was like there was a stat that I had read, and it was like essentially any running back that had over 300 carries in the NFL, because they play more games, more everything, you don't want him the following year. It just the next year they are just worn out, done, whatever it is, but they are much worse. Saquon Barkley was much worse this year than he was last year after carrying it 345 times, and there was just statistic after statistic about how bad that was. So I think there's something very much to what you're saying here and something to keep an eye on. Sorry.
But don't forget Trey Stewart, 278 the year before too. So it's kind of what that offense does. It finds one guy and goes. But I also wonder, did either one of those teams have a really good 2 and 3 or a change of pace, or did it have to go to him? Probably not. And even to that point, Huff had I think 210 or 212 carries, so it was pretty much a two-man gang 2 years ago. And this is where you kind of be a little bit weird, Chris. The top number of carries in 2024, Cam Scatterbo got hurt in the NFL. Armari and Hampton got hurt in the NFL. Those are, I think, top four last year. So you're talking 280, 290 in the carry range. There's a concern there. My point being that ideally he lowers that by, I don't know, let's just say 50, 75, because you have a good backup and you have some guys who can push him for playing time, or if he does get hurt, you can take him out for a quarter of a series and not put more strain or more stress on him by having they get there, not with the portal. I think that Cook's a really good addition. I would say the class of the class so far because of his accomplishments. He's a power forward player bouncing back, but also because he knows what they're doing. Like that Jacksonville State system, while different coaching staff was fairly similar, so he understands the system. He can come in and do it. You didn't have that last year, so if he kind of wakes up knowing what to do in the first day of practice, that's great, and that helps out a lot. Don't feel as good about that because I just was kind of really thinking they had the answers last year. Um, in summary, maybe not like an individual. I think we all had questions about Jaheim White, well founded. But did you think they had enough backups there between Hubbard and Bowers and Ty Edwards and this and that? That's before we knew that Ty Edwards had an eligibility issue. That's before we knew all the injuries. You felt pretty good about it. Um, the thing that just strikes me is that the season starts and Clay Ash is your number two running back, and that was a misfit. They should be better than that. Like the starting question, I think we know who the starter is. The backup, I don't know who it is, but the backup probably should be better than Clay Ash. So that might make you feel better.
Yeah,
That ought to make you feel better.
ought to. Uh, Wide receiver. This is an interesting room. Um, Gone via transfer. Cam Vaughn, Rodney Gallagher, Christian Hamilton, Jordan McCants, Jarrell Williams, Tyshawn Dews, Oren Singleton. So top two there, Vaughn and Gallagher, the main two that are leaving via transfer. But that makes the entire the top three, four? I mean,
And you
James
lose
Bray got
Weimer.
hurt, so because you also lost, Jeff Weimer. So there's another one gone. Room is pretty bare. Only returning players. What I think Bray was the only one that had snaps. It
Not
looks
many,
like to
right?
me, and he got hurt and missed most of the year, and he's going to have to get a medical red shirt to come back. So this
He,
is,
don't forget, he caught two passes in 2024 too. So
yeah,
he's not played a lot of football, and I understand that broken finger and playing through a broken finger, yeah, you're injury prone by your own decision there, but like this is back-to-back years now with leg injuries too. So for a guy who's speedy and relies on cuts in his wheels, that's a concern. It's the same concern you had about Jaheim White. And for a guy who hasn't played, hadn't been healthy, and has injuries, that worries me a little bit too. And then who do you have, Chris? Just you added some people for sure. Did you add enough? Whether in quantity or quality, you probably have serious questions about that. And here's something too that I don't know that we do a good enough job with in the portal, whether cataloging or contextualizing. But if you're talking about transfer portal performance, retention is so darn important that keeping players, or maybe not this, who leaves that could actually help you. Like if you lose your DSAs, if you lose people who were like just a guy and if they're a senior they haven't played, but if you're losing a Christian Hamilton who you brought in, if you're losing of that group, I guess Gallagher would be a big one there too. If you're losing a Cam Vaughn, like that's a spectrum of players, talented, a veteran, potential, just three different guys, three different things. But you're losing a lot there. That makes to me it more difficult to reward the transfer portal incoming class because they lost so much. They started a deficit. And players who could have come back, you're going to have to do enough to feel good and then more because of who you lost to feel good about it. And like, I don't know that we do a good enough job of that sometimes. Because sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, you lost 8 players. 7 of them couldn't play, right? Sometimes, some positions. But here they lost some players. And like, no offense to Jarrell Williams. You probably don't sting over Jarrell Williams. And maybe not Christian Hamilton, but like, Cam Vaughn's a big one. Rodney Gallagher didn't have great productivity, but that's a veteran who can help you in a bunch of areas. Just different positions on this roster. They lost a lot. So did you get enough to feel good about 25, or excuse me, 26? Fine, but did you get enough to feel good about 26, knowing who could be helping you out from 2025? And then within that answer is another question. Did you have a chance? Did you have a an interest in bringing a player back? Because the Cam Vaughn stuff, like you're hearing that there's a lot behind the curtain that we just didn't know about, and they managed as best they could, and kind of knew he was probably leaving, and lo and behold, he's at Miami. So was that a lost cause? You might ding West Virginia for losing a player like Cam Vaughn who ends up in Miami. West Virginia might have had neither chance nor interest in keeping him either. So how much do you hold that against them? I don't know if that makes sense, but I wish it was something that maybe I could articulate better, but also that we could probably present better when we're trying to do these monologues, these evaluations of their transfer portal performance.
Well,
Yes,
I'm
this
not.
one hurts. Like they lose some good players here that would help because they just don't have a lot of bodies and
No.
productivity right now. You're better with some of the guys that they lost for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is one of the rooms where I feel like it's pretty clearly not as good as it was, and
Mhm.
it could be. Like there is this the guys that they added are all, hey, this could be great. But you take all four of the current transfer additions, uh, Strawn, Epps, Francis, and Nieder. They don't even combine for 1,000 yards last year between the four of them. One
Mm.
of them played one game, got hurt. One completely redshirted, only playing on special teams basically, and then two other guys that acted as their second, third receivers at smaller schools. Um, but again, there's potential. Strawn was impressive at Boise State before going to USC. And he's a big, strong dude. Teron Francis was like an elite recruit that just and he didn't play during his true freshman season. And for me, I always wonder about like, wait, the guy was a top 120 guy, I think one number 115, something like top 150, one of the best wide receivers in the country, and he doesn't play at a place like LSU, which had as an argument as like the number two wide receiver U behind Ohio State in the past like 15, 20 years.
Mhm.
And we're supposed to think so much less of him. Like I think that's a great ad. He just doesn't have
Yeah.
the experience, but I think it's a
Yeah.
great ad. Like, but it's a gamble. It's more of a gamble than it would be if you added a guy that was a true 1,000 yard receiver already.
Mhm. I haven't done. I've tried this. Sometimes when West Virginia gets a player in the portal, I haven't played a lot. I look back at the injury reports and
Uh-huh.
like, I've had a hard time. I'm maybe trying to do it now, but I did it before and I couldn't find it. Like, I can't find the catalog of SEC ones, and I wonder if, now it's unlocked. I'll look right now. I wonder if Francis was he injured last year? Because that's a guy who probably should be playing, and he was there for special teams for a while, just enough to play the 4 games
Yeah.
and then comes back for the bowl game with a gap too. And actually, he's not on any injury report during the season. So
Yeah.
I would say that he's probably a guy who just was healthy and didn't play last year.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a room that right now, I'm like, oof, man, things are going to have to go right. Let's put it that way. Like the projections are going to have to one be correct and may have to be on a quicker timeline than maybe you would project even for this to be a big win. But it's possible because again, I like all of these guys because there's a world where Strawn's where our guy Prince is a number one receiver. Like he's got the physical tools to be a number one receiver. He just hasn't had the production outside of a little bit at Boise State before then. So we'll see.
Are we calling him strong like that?
Strawn. I think it's like a silent is Strawn, like Strawn.
Okay, I like Prince.
I like just Prince. Should have just
I'm sure
stuck with
he probably
Prince.
likes that too.
Um,
They have to add here, right?
yeah, I think so. I mean, I there's been a couple names I think we've posted on the board and stuff, but it's number wise. Let's see, one, two. I think number wise, it's about where it is or was last year at 15 current projected players for the roster in 2026 at wide receiver.
Hmm.
But I'm with you. I think they're just if you can find one more, preferably just a guy that's done it before. Like there's something to be said about having that, having a guy that's done it and to be able to lead the room and lead the practices and stuff. It means something.
Hutchins and Triplet from the junior college class,
Yeah,
we should include in the conversation though, because those are junior college players, not high school players. They're transfers. They are probably one's a slot and one's an X or a Z, I would think. So there's some gaps there that can actually fill. I mean, but the recruiting class though, shoo, was there another receiver in there, Chris?
from
Oliver
high school.
from Florida, right?
Yeah, Robert Oliver.
Malachi Thompson was in there,
Malachi Thompson's another one.
who they like, but right away.
Yeah.
Um, your guy from Edna
I was,
Carr,
I was gonna say
Wilford.
Greg Wilford from Head Car. There's Charlie Hannafin and Landon Drum. But again, Hannafin's coming from Hannafin and Drum both. Like you may like them. I mean, we saw him. Well, I think I can't remember if you were at that camp or not. I know you had your
Oh
recruiting
yeah,
card and you were at some of the camps, but at that one, he was a dog. And like he was the guy again. We've seen it all the time where they do one-on-ones and the wide receiver coach picks his best player and the defensive backs coach picks his best cornerback. And Ryan Garrett and Logan Bradley unanimously chose Charlie Hannafin to do the one-on-one to break the tie in the competition between receivers and defensive backs, and he made one of the best catches of the like entire summer.
I remember that.
So he's a dude that they like and that's contributed. But both Hannafin and Drum play high school ball. You know, we talk about guys having to make that jump from high school ball to college. Everybody's bigger, everybody's faster, the game moves quicker. Like I used to live in Boston. That football in Boston is not very high level competition. Like there are some dudes up there. Boston College picks a few guys, but it is not Georgia or Florida or anything like that. And Drum, we've kind of talked about quite a bit, or we haven't, but Brandon Huffman has, who's come over from our West Coast side to share some thoughts on him. He was in Alaska a couple years ago playing like 7-on-7 ball. He's in Colorado now, but Colorado ball is still not what some of these other places are. So I think the leap from where they play high school ball to where college is, especially Power Four college, is going to be a little greater than maybe some of these other guys.
Two more. One, I like the Niter pick a lot. It's small, low key. He could play inside, outside for you. He's probably going to matter on special teams. A good practice player, and he's not David Sills. You know, David Sills played quarterback in
Interesting.
yeah, but so this guy. So if you're not familiar with his story, John Niter from UConn was a receiver for his high school in Connecticut. They needed a quarterback his senior year. They said, "Hey, do you want to play quarterback?" All right, cool. He wins Connecticut Player of the Year. They win 10 games. They go to the state semifinals. His stats are crazy as a runner and a receiver. Walks on a quarterback at UConn. Does okay. True freshman year. They put him on special teams, and then the defensive players are like, "Get him off the scout team. He's better than our starters." And he goes and has a pretty good year last year in his first time as like a full-time receiver. And I think the coaching and the style of offense up there is underrated because UConn's been so abysmal for so long, but they were very exciting and very potent on offense past couple of years. And here's a guy who can play slot 6'2", play special teams. I'm not saying he's going to throw you a touchdown pass during the year, but you're putting these pieces on offense. They've got guys who know how to play football, and that seems like that's one of them too. And we have not mentioned this name, Chris. We talked about um, receivers from the freshman class and the portal class in junior college. That's probably where Matt Sieg ends up too, right?
Yeah, we could see some him getting some time there for sure.
How much to make a difference do you not hit the portal now? Because you know what, we got Matt Sieg. You're probably not doing that. You're probably still looking for something. So this will be what they do now. And never mind. I'll save this point for later. But there's still time. There's only time ticking for players to jump into the portal. There might be some surprises. We'll see now. Playoff teams are out. Maybe negotiations with players went sideways or about to go sideways, and they're just like, enough, I'm going to the portal. So you want to save yourself a little bit of room, a little bit of cash, and whether that was intentional or not, that's the reality for West Virginia. They have what we said, maybe 6, 7, 8 spots, maybe 6, 7, 8 needs too, but this would be one they're probably going to look to fill for sure.
All right, tight end, Mike. Um, whew, this is a rough spot there. Maybe that changed a little bit yesterday on Sunday. Um, As things stood before Sunday, it was Ryan Ward, who was the third string tight end, saw increased time as the year went on. And then one, two, three, four, five, six guys that we would classify as in the old days walk-ons or true freshmen. That's not a healthy spot to be in that room. They go out, they add Josh Sapp from Clemson. You were on this one pretty early telling me about him coming in to visit. Is that enough to shore up this room for 2026?
How are you playing 12 personnel, Chris?
Yeah.
That's just the thing that worries me. Like, and again, they didn't do a lot of it last year. They're like 11 based. I get that, but there have been times where they've had two backs, and sometimes the second back is your Owen Schmidt, for lack of a better phrase. I hate doing that, but your H back, your bigger back, your tight end in the backfield, and sometimes you do that with a guy on the line of scrimmage too. So is there enough depth of bodies? Never mind talent, Chris. Like, is there enough people who can actually physically play the position right now to make you feel good about it? Because I'm looking at the roster, Chris. You're saying six, seven guys. Most of them are coming in,
Yeah.
right? So that's where it's going to be, like the most interesting to me. I do think there's things that they can do with, like for example, like a Malik Agbo. I'm not sure where he's going to be in the tackle competition, but probably not at the front of it now, right?
Mm.
So could you have him? He's probably never going to catch a pass, or you wouldn't think he would. So can you have him doing something where he's just your not like a Cody Clay, because Cody Clay was like a tight end, but he was also like a extra tackle, but also maybe like a Nick Malone who could play tackle for you. But before he was their starting tackle, he was like a flex tight end who could help you out and do some stuff. I wonder if that's a future for him and if they've accounted for something like that. But Chris, tell me, like, who are the names and what is
Mm.
their background? What's their experience to join Ryan Ward? Man, the guy from Clemson, I forgot his name.
Josh Sapp.
Sapp, who's like 6'2", I believe.
Yeah,
Probably very
he's not a Cole Taylor, if you
Yeah,
will. Like,
right. He's probably like more of an H-back, like kind of a guy, which they need for sure if you're going to put him in the backfield. But if you're doing that, you really can't put him on the line. He played the position at Clemson, so I'm not really worried about him being able to do that. But who else is in the mix here?
yeah. Oof.
Not
I
really. Who,
mean, the only
who
other
else
one
is
I
in the
could think
mix?
of was
Like we're talking freshmen, right?
yeah, and then there's Noah Tischendorf who's recruited as a Bandit, and Rich Rodriguez singled him out on signing day as, hey, this guy could also play some H back, and yeah, maybe he can, but again, and I'm not saying Rich Rodriguez was planning on banking on that, but nobody should like that. But that's where it is. Like those are your answers, quote unquote, right now. Is hey, how about this true freshman, this true freshman, this true freshman, this former walk on, or this converted bandit that's also a true freshman. Like
And they
it's
tried
so
in junior college too, right? To get a
yeah.
couple guys that just were big and could play, which I don't think it's a hard thing to add. Just win, probably
Yeah.
maybe toward the finish line here.
Offensive line, complete overhaul. Like, I mean, a lot of dudes. I thought when they had one, two, three, maybe four, I was like, all right, that's probably it. It's probably all they can convince or pay for to come over. Because I think, again, no one, we're not gonna say anybody's assured of a starting job, but these guys are coming in looking for a starting job, and then they see that there are already two returning guys with starting jobs, a couple others that were in the mix, and then you bring in five guys that started at their old schools. I like it. I wasn't expecting five, at least not of that caliber, or at
Mhm.
least not with starting experience, because again, they're expecting to start. Is this position better? The most important question is this position better than it was at the start of last year?
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry,
yeah,
for those that are listening, Mike almost like devoured his mic to try to say yes right
yeah.
there. Just shook me off. Like, oh my God, yes.
I was thinking, should I let it breathe? Like maybe I was being pensive and pouring over my response, but I think anybody probably would have turned it off if I counted to more than three there.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Uh, Chris, did they recruit their starting offensive line in the past couple of days?
might have.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you could make that argument for sure. Like, I'm not sure it's going to happen that way, but like, you could go inside out from Griffin, Voss, King, uh, Cassidy, and
did you say
uh,
Griffin?
Grayson. Yeah, sorry. Um, you could go tackle, guard, center there.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't. I'm not sure how it's going to end up, but maybe a guy who's a tackle or at the Conference USA level might be a guard here, or whatever. But those five guys could all be starters individually or collectively. I don't think there's any question about that. Like it's not like there's so much talent in front of them, but they also have, a number of players on campus who we presumed were options. Nick Cray, Landon Livingston, on his way, Kevin Brown. Chris, now you got a conversation of 8 legitimate options to play football, and you haven't talked about like a Brandon Homedy or people like that who were around and who played or at least practiced a lot last year, played a little bit. I'm not saying they have 10, 12 people, but I'm not sure I have five last year, Chris.
Yeah.
And that's just not a question right now. That's a
Uh,
big, big deal. And then just I think the overhaul in coaching is pretty significant too.
yeah, and then think back to your reports from spring practice. Like you were just like, I don't even know who some of these linemen are that are going out there. Like there's dudes out there that are third string walk-ons that may or may not be in the team in a couple weeks when they start enforcing these roster limits. Like that, that was before they had made the compromise of the DSA, the designated student athletes, and all that stuff. And it's just like, wait, these guys might not even make the 105 when we get to that
Mhm.
point. It's a tough, tough spot where offensive line was last year. No shock that it ended up being so bad, and much healthier now. Much, much healthier.
They're done, right?
Yes. I
Okay.
can't imagine. I mean, and total numbers are up to 23. And again, there's a couple guys that are quote unquote returning that are not listed on the roster, but okay. Defensive line.
Just stick on the offensive line for a second,
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Um, do you honestly, I'm being sincere here. Could you, with a high level of confidence, go left to right, tackle, tackle, and say, no, these are the five starters? Because I can't do that.
Oh, no. I don't think I can name the five right now. I mean, again, I think I think we tried to do this last year. And we're like, I don't know, but we can for sure pencil in Walter Youngbear. Well, we penciled him in all right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it went well, but
Yeah. And then, like, and is there anybody on the roster that we're forgetting about? Because I think sometimes we get too close to the sun on some of these things and we forget. And, like, they don't have a whole lot of offense line, but we mentioned Homedy. Uh, I mentioned Agbo. You still have Isosa. I mentioned Cray. There's some
Livingston.
people there. Yeah, Livingston center or guard if he's not going to be the center. I just I just wonder if they all haven't like the people like the Isosas and the Agbos and maybe even to a lesser extent Homedy who's got time on his side. So don't get me wrong there, but did they get covered up here, or did a Livingston and a Cray did they get covered up or significantly challenged right now? Yeah,
Yep.
for sure, which is probably precisely the point.
Yep. I'll say I like bringing up Hamidi here again. I don't know if he'll contribute in 2026. It's very difficult with all these names, but there's a reason that they didn't bother redshirting him last year, and he was contributing on every single special teams unit.
Yeah.
Like you don't just be like, oh well, that's just a dude. Like no, I mean he's doing something right. So that's somebody to just keep an eye on. If not for 2026, at least 2027 and beyond. So
Mhm.
um, defensive line transfers out. Notably, I'm sorry, but Asani Redwood, Elijah Simmons, apparently Hammond Russell, who's getting an extra year. I mean, not apparently, he's in the
He
portal, but
is,
he is
yeah.
apparently getting an extra year.
Well, he signed with Wisconsin, Chris.
Yeah. Um, coming in right now,
Hmm.
Will LeBlanc. That's it. I got a couple guys. I'm not counting Bandit here. I got a couple of the other guys at Bandit on our list. So,
Do you think Afogo and Holloman are both bandits?
I mean, I think maybe only Holloman ends up there. Maybe Afogo ends up more as a quote unquote end, but
Like a Brandon Siders?
yeah, I was gonna say we saw him do that stuff with Siders, where it's like, oh, he's a bandit. Actually, maybe he's an end, and again, it just kind of I think it's personnel packages and stuff like that. You slide him up, slide him back, mix and match them with what you got. But this room is one that I have been talking about being so strong for so long. This is the first time where I'm looking at it and being like, man, that room took a hit, like a good hit. Now, I have been told, capital T, that these junior college guys they brought in, they love.
Well, I
And
hope
there's a
so.
story that I told you on at least one of them, and I believe at least two of them, they paid like they loved them.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the answer. Like, hey, I mean, again, as we're recording this, they're still recruiting defensive linemen. They're still recruiting pass rushers. So this room of all rooms is certainly not done. But I think, just like you mentioned back with the receivers, but even more true here, we have to lump in those junior college guys like they're transfers coming in because they view those guys as absolute dudes.
I
And
mean,
I think based on where this position is right now, they need them to be.
could you start Jalen Thomas in the middle, KJ Henson at DT, and Darius Wiley defensive end?
Could.
Could you play them again individually? Sure, collectively, probably, right? So
Yeah.
maybe they did the work there, and and you know what? You're right. They probably paid for, at least for one of the guys we know. But you're even when you pay there, you're at a discount because the one thing that I've heard from people is that the most they knew there would be developments just because things change year over year, and when you let somebody go through the cycle once, they're going to do it differently. Agents the second time, edge players became like at a premium this year that the people I talked to were not entirely expecting. Now we know right tackle, defensive end, quarterback, that whole price structure thing. Yeah, I just mentioned defensive end. That's going to be high, but I think the number for that one has been significant there too, which is why you've seen a lot of people go in. I think you'll see more people go in now because they're going to realize what the numbers are. So that's promising. In fact, that's already kind of started. And that is one position, Chris, that I feel like your power forward programs can lose backups and maybe be okay, but whoever picks up that backup benefits a lot because they're talented, and sometimes you just get lost because you can recruit or get from the transfer portal, somebody and develop somebody over time, and that second, third string on defensive end, sometimes you can find good players there, which is what West Virginia's kind of hoping for right now. That they took a swing at some good players, didn't work out. It's hard, but a backup guy from the Big Ten maybe, this week perhaps. Seems like it's down to West Virginia, maybe in Mississippi State, according to our reporting. That's not a bad addition. That's a guy who probably wants a fresh start and like a new look at things. But you're talking a fifth year senior who probably knows what to do, and a late addition that'd be fine. But they they better love those junior college guys for good reason and not just because they better love them, right?
Yeah. Bandit. Whew. I mean,
Bodies,
out Marshawn Oxley, Keenan Eck, and Curtis Jones. Just
two really hurt. I don't know about Keenan Eck, but I
yeah,
just liked Oxley for again small role. I understand that, but
impactful.
noticed when he was out there, which
Yeah,
you feel like you can go from there. I'd be very curious to see where he ends up. I already know where Jones is going if he's not already there. Don't know what happened there, but he got a really nice offer from a school he's evidently heading to. And West Virginia said, "All right, that's way more than we are willing to pay, but let's talk." And then they went out and trying to find some help and make it happen, and it just wasn't going to work. So you can ding West Virginia for losing a good player there, but you could also say here's a guy that they moved off the position and then off of defense. And, he wasn't taking defensive snaps last year. And maybe he didn't like that very much, or maybe West Virginia didn't like him, but it's a loss they're going to have to address. And then have they done that? Well, here we are. We got to talk about that, right?
yeah. As I say, coming in from the recruiting standpoint, Noah Tischendorf, who we talked about earlier, may be splitting time at H-back, according to Rich Rodriguez, but he's not arriving till the summer. So
Hurts.
I don't want to just write him off as a non-factor, but we know how important it is to be there for spring.
Hmm.
A non-factor for 2026, that is. Jeremiah Johnson coming from
Yeah.
California.
Junior
That's
college.
that's an option. Yeah, junior college kid that rushes the passer, pure pass rusher, and that's kind of similar kind of role or profile as I would say like Oxley and Eck. Like that's where they found them. That's how they recruited those guys. Maybe you're hoping for similar. Hey, give us 10 snaps a game and give us a handful of good pass rushes from him. And then they go out and they get David Afogo, solid. Harper Holloman. That's one I've highlighted.
Yeah.
Um, because again, I don't know. I don't know if he's a complete sleeper, but me personally, I wasn't like, oh man, my knowledge of Western Kentucky Hilltoppers defensive stats, like it's just not my thing. But then you go and look at some of the like detailed numbers on some of his pass rushes and everything like that, like his pass rush win rates and how often he's getting to the quarterback. It's some of the best in the country. So if you are asking him, again, we have so many conversations where you're like, hey, you want to find those guys that's elite at something, like at least one skill. Maybe that's what he's elite at, and maybe that's what if that's what you're looking for, that bandit spot. Maybe he plays. Hey, you're going to be in most of our pass rushing situations. You're going to play about 300 to 350 snaps this year. You'll be in certain packages, but not others. And we just need you to get after the quarterback. Can you do that? And I think that's a big pickup if that's the role they're trying to fit him in.
Nobody else in the roster right now could actually like flex out there either, I don't think. Like we talked about their lack of defensive ends. all their linebackers are linebackers. So yeah, like who you're talking about here. I'm trying to think who was the recruit that Rodriguez said also was a really good pass rusher. Was it Xavier Anderson?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think that's going to work, right? So again, it's going to be a hard one to add and really make an kind of a impression because the pass rush is just a lot of them are off the board already, like outside linebacker types, bandit types. So, and then if you're in there, your price tag is probably going up too if you're a good player. So this may be what you see is what you get there, and certainly something to watch because there's a bunch of ways to kind of create this player from the roster or from like a combination of players. So can they do that? There's good players alike. Can they build them up and get them going right away? It'd be great if you're on campus for spring football for sure, but that preseason is going to be important and just trying to figure out, all right, how do we attack and who do we attack with? I mean, that's going to be the personality of the defense. But if you have another option there on the outside, you feel a lot better about it.
yep,
I think they. Here's the thing. I really liked that group last year. What they get out of it, like I didn't have Braden Siders as your starting bandit, right? You figured it was going to be Jamori Robinson, and then you were going to have Oxley and Eck behind him. I mean, Robinson, we know his story. Siders became a really valuable player, and we liked Oxley in small bites. So if you felt good about that, I don't know. Maybe you don't feel good about it now, but it's unpredictable. Maybe they have something here because what they looked at last year were like, well, we had these great plans and it just didn't work out. Maybe they have a different view of it this year and they feel better about it. Maybe we should too. Don't know. We'll see.
um, so one more definitely needed, or
It's going to be hard. If they can find somebody who's just, it's probably not going to be a guy you look at and say, yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. Maybe somebody you have to talk yourself into. Who cares? Like if you can do that skill well enough to sign the check, I guess we should say nowadays. That's probably all that matters. So if you've done it before, if you've gotten after the quarterback, you have a high success rate in PFF's pass rushing productivity, something like that. It's fine. But look around, like you don't get a ton of sacks anymore. Like
yeah,
West Virginia signs all these offensive linemen. I think Grayson allowed one sack last year, and Griffin allowed two, and nobody else allowed any. So
yeah.
you signed five offensive linemen who's allowed three sacks last year. Well, they must be great. Well, okay, but sacks are hard to come by now too. So if they're hard to come by because of the way quarterbacks run and how quickly they get rid of the ball, so on and so forth, it's hard to find guys who have like 10 sacks anymore. So it's just you got to be really careful how you look at this and probably how you evaluate it too.
Linebacker in Isaiah Patterson, Malachi Hood, Tyler Stolsky. Um, Out. I mean, really, like, I mean, other than the graduates, not counting the graduates because it was always going to be gone, but transfers out. Hasty, Nui Yandel, who neither of whom really played. Ben Bogle, slightly notable here. Again, like played a little bit this past year and was better and better and better. I think he ended up as the highest graded player on defense for West Virginia.
You see where he ended up?
No. Oh God.
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Okay.
The concern on him is he big enough to play? Like he's a
Yeah.
playmaker for sure. Is he big enough to play? I mean, he played kind of fearless. Like he really threw himself in the gaps, but is he big enough to play? Well, he's going to play in the SEC now, so like, he's a highly productive player at the level before here, FCS, and a lot of opportunity to crack the rotation last year. And he never took over starter snaps. I wonder if this wasn't something where he knew he can make money somewhere. Funny how that works. And West Virginia said, not what we're willing to do. That's one of those cases I'd look at and I say, this is probably just a difference of opinion. He went and he got his money somewhere else. Good for him. Difficult to replace, not impossible.
What about the replacements?
That's what I'm saying. You feel better about saying goodbye to Ben Bogle after you have those guys in the fold.
Yeah.
Um, Ideally, their experiment with a linebacker from UNLV works better this year than last year. But that's a guy who, again, didn't play a lot, but we liked the fact that he developed during the season and got the most out of his practice time and his playing time toward the end of the schedule, which means he was getting better. That means that he's probably coming in the front foot on the front foot when he hits campus here. Figured out how to do things. He's got some momentum as a player. Maybe that's good. I just like what they've done. I think Stolz's going to be like a day one starter. Just again, he's Bogle-ish in that he's coming from a different level, but it's FBS. It's not FCS. And a former walk-on at Minnesota, former Big Ten player, Chris, as you like to say, but really worked himself into a spot to go somewhere last year and do something and prove it, and he did. And now he bounces back to the P4. I think he'll be a middle linebacker for them. I just feel better about it than I would have having seen them lose Carrico and later Bogle if they had just filled in with like smaller pieces. But I feel like they got starters here and guys are going to be in that top. What do you think? Top six, probably those two positions. Top four. Are they
Yeah.
really going to need them? Maybe, but they have answers here. I think for sure. They probably should feel good about this.
Um, I'm just gonna float this out there for you. 6'4", 235, 6'2", 225, 6'3", 225. Some big dudes.
Yeah, and Hood can run too. Like, and that's another power four guy we're talking about, but he can run. Like if you watch him, he moves from side to side pretty good. Patterson, that's a 6'4", 235. That's the size you really like. And that's the guy who played okay in the early, but played pretty well at the end of the year last year. And if your top three is gonna be Woods, Cutter, Stolsky, Hood, Stolsky, Patterson, something like that, like your two guys in a backup in there, if that's how they do it, you can get 4 or 5 spots out of those. Well, I guess 4 or 5 names. Those 5 names right now, you can get 4 or 5 spots easy.
All right, moving on to cornerback because again we planned this to be like what 30 35 minutes. We are approaching 50.
Oh God,
We're,
really?
we're doing our
Sorry.
we're doing our usual.
You want to do this defensive back and then blow through this?
Well, cornerback again out transferring out. Nobody that contributed. I mean, they lost to graduation again. That's why there's nobody contributing that's transferring out because they lost everybody to graduation. But coming in, Jameer Latimer, Andrew Powdrell, and Malik Hawkins. Somebody's going to say, "Oh, what about Shams Diagni?" I got him as safety. I mean,
Six
I have a
four.
I have a very hard time with a 6'4", 200-pound cornerback.
Yeah.
That's not going to fly in the Big 12.
No. I don't feel as good about this as I did last year. I'd be surprised if you disagree, but when you had um, Scruggs and
Coates,
Coates
yeah,
and Devontae Golden Nelson and who was the other cornerback? I'm forgetting his name. I don't know. Liked him so much I forgot his name. But you like their additions last year in the portal. I thought that was one of their strong
yeah,
areas when it came to portal performance last year. And those that was I mean their defense wasn't good. I don't get me wrong, but when they were playing well, their corners played pretty well, and sometimes they were under siege because they weren't good up front. I don't see anything near as a comp this year. Like just not collectively as good. I'm not sure there's one individual who is as good as some of their players last year they brought in.
yeah. You were thinking of Jason Chambers, who,
Chambers, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and you probably forgot about him because he was one of those guys
Surprise.
that just like all of a sudden was like, "Hey, there's this guy from App State that's just here.
Showed up
Like
one
he's
day.
with the program.
Yeah.
But no announcement from him, no announcement from the school, no nothing. But yeah, three guys that well, I mean, they were pretty good. And again, yeah, I don't think there's just nobody that's going to be as good as Coates. I don't think because that was again one of the top cornerbacks available in the transfer portal. So unless you're getting like a top five corner out of the transfer portal, you're not going to be able to replicate what you did last year. And
Mm.
Scruggs was really good. I like Jameer Latimer. I like Powdrell from what I've seen. I'm not as familiar with him, but and Malik Hawkins. I've seen some of his like film, and again, like this guys put this together at all levels of workout film to make you look good. But watching the way he moves in some of these workout films where he's working with his trainer, I'm like, oh man, he is twitchy. Like he
Mhm.
can really move. But again, young, redshirt freshman. We'll see if he can contribute early. But I think they need at least one more here.
Unless they can get Boone or Vincent Smith up and running really fast, which seems
Yeah.
like a lot to ask.
Um, Safety slash nickel. Oh boy. Um, there was a moment there where there were the guys not appearing on the roster where I was snapshotting our tracker and the current scholarship players returning was going to have the word none next to it. Again, I was told not to take that at face value. So Julian Horton is currently listed as returning with the program. Did not play a bunch last year. They
And they
got
got hurt
nothing
early.
like as far as experience
Yeah.
is returning. They got some nice incoming recruits. Emery Snyder's awesome, big dude, fills in that role again. A lot of people have been saying on the board like, all right, that's this year's Chris Filippo, um, who again played sparingly as a true freshman last year and is now on his way. Has it been announced where he's going yet? I mean,
I believe he committed, right?
you and I already knew.
Yeah.
Um, you always seem to know when guys enter the transfer portal with a do not contact tag, and pretty
He
obvious.
committed. He
Yeah.
committed, by the way. You can say it.
Okay. Penn State.
Yeah.
Um, and so you got that, but I mean, you just can't contribute. You can't rely on that. But like Matt Sieg, Miles Cottrey is like a converted linebacker that they're looking to play like nickel position. Can Damari Williams be a guy right away? The junior college transfer? Don't
Is,
know.
is Smith a nickel? Is he a safety?
Right.
He's a big kid, 6'2", I think, right?
I'm a huge fan of the Kamari Wilson ad. Huge. Like
Yeah.
that's another one I'm highlighting along with my Bandit, but that's only one. Last I checked, there's three safety slash nickel spots, so I don't think he can play all three at once.
So they're definitely waiting on Cone Entringer from Iowa.
Hmm.
There are some strings attached to that because he is, I'm going to get the dates wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that he is going to Texas Tech after Coy Parrish. And if Coy Parrish commits, why would he commit there? Um, and then he comes to West Virginia. That would be something there too. Like if he's down to, two, three schools and one of them doesn't have a need, then obviously West Virginia goes up there. But that's a really good player from the Big 12. Probably comes in as a starter. Probably has a really big price tag too. So that would be a good win for them. And then you're just kind of seeing like they're cycling through and trying to get people on campus who will take a visit and take the money and take a starting spot too. That's what they're looking for here because they don't have any, but they want to have an answer that is a starter. You don't want to get two guys and figure it out here. You're probably paying one that's a starter less than you pay two guys at this point, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I just think that this was the one that definitely needs work, and that's not much of a surprise or a bold statement, not just because of the numbers you mentioned. And I think this is the one, Chris, that you would worry about. The other ones, you're like, all right, well, they could do this and they can make this work. Like we talked about different scenarios, you can make it work. Apart from having a lot of freshmen playing back there, which would make you worry, I don't know how you're not a little bit alarmed by this right now. Still time to go, I get that, but just not where they need or want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, as things stand at the moment, you need to hit on 100% of your transfers in and junior college ads, and you still don't have enough. So, like,
That's bad, right?
how often? I mean, you're very rarely hitting 100%. Like, that's not, that's it's like you're lucky if you hit 50%. Not lucky, but you're doing a good job if you hit 50% on your ads. So,
Mhm.
yikes, that's tough for him. Again, they're not done, but it needs some works for sure. Definitely one of those where I'm like, no, I felt way better about where West Virginia was last year than I do right now
Yeah.
at safety.
I think it's important to remember, like last week, it was, hey, it hasn't even started yet. It's not over yet too, and like I wanted to get in this before, like there's a second wave of stuff now too. Players go in, you save some money, you have some time, you know what you need, you can redivert your resources. Oh, we're going to pay so much for offensive line, we got that done, we have extra cash, that goes to safety. There's this adjusting recalculation, but players too, players go in now, players had their heart or their mind set on one place, but that spot got filled, they got to go somewhere else. There's like the wave crashes, it recedes, and then it crashes again. And you're about to see that happen here, I think. Not here, but like across college football.
Yeah. All right. Last spot, your favorite spot, and maybe the spot I feel very good about, like the most. Like I think they did the best at replenishing your specialists.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking kicker, punter, kickoff, long snapper. You're already set. You got McGuire Moss returning. You got Caden Sellers backup returning. You're good there. Return man, who we're not really covering this area, but if you think about it, they still have a couple good dudes. And DJ Epps was a very, very good return man for Troy. That's the wide receiver transfer. So you've kind of filled that spot a little bit too.
Mhm.
Um, Mike, how giddy are you about this specialist room since you are a specialist of the specialists?
I'm upset that we lost the Australian punter, who was just a guy that played Aussie rules football, and like his 24/7 profile is him in his rugby jersey or his Aussie rules jersey.
And his Instagram is just him drinking beers at the beach with his friends. Like, yes,
I'm
yes.
I'm heartened, however, that while he somehow leaves and ends up at Arizona, I'm gonna need the background story on that. But I'm heartened by the fact they get a kicker from Northern Ireland who's 6'6", 230.
Yeah.
I don't know, Chris. We're talking about edge rushers. Send Jack Cassidy out the corner and see what happens. I have a feeling he could probably make some noise, but you lose a punter and you get a very good punter back, it seems. You're not great at kickoffs. You get a guy in Cassidy who's put it to the end zone a bunch. You need a kicker. You get, I mean, the kicker rankings are very different, I understand, but like a five-star kicker from I think it was Coles, right? Who went to Alabama and just didn't get in
Yeah.
the field. Returns, got it. Like, who's going to be their holder? We haven't mentioned that, Chris.
Mm.
But you got plenty of time to work on that. I'm sure they have guys who've done it. I think Hanson was actually the holder at Colorado State too. I'll have to check that. But you've got you have fewer worries here, and again, you check some things here. So you've got kickoffs at Cassie, you've got field goals, PATs, probably with Navarro. You have punter with Hanson. You have Nate Flower back who could help you out. There's a lot to like about just a few positions, and there's a lot of places to cover when it comes to special teams. But like I mentioned, Niter's going to help you on a bunch of special teams. Like there's some of these players that brought in that could start to be backups, but they will help you on special teams, especially some of their linebacker, defensive back needs are going to have to play special teams. Some of their linebackers do for sure. We'll see what happens with their safeties and corners, but yeah, this just seems like they had their job and they did it, and no issues with that at all.
I have an update on how you wanted to be a buzzkill for the punter. Do you want?
Go
Did
ahead,
you see
please.
that in the thread? I
No.
mean, I don't, but one of our members did. I think I messaged you about Hanson. I was like, oh man, almost 50 yards a punt.
Oh yeah.
And you said, put on my specialist glasses, and
Yeah.
I see that he plays at elevation
Yeah.
at Colorado State. That was brought up in one of the message board posts as well. And one of our members went and looked it up.
Oh
A
God.
higher punting average away from Colorado State than at home at
Really?
Colorado State. So, hey, I'm taking what our members post on the board at face value. That's never steered me wrong.
No.
So, I'm going to believe it for the sake of argument and
Okay.
go with it. But again, I think they knocked this out of the park. Like you want to get. I know people don't get as excited about specialists as you do, but you want to get the best as you can get at all these spots, and they got three. Like, and that's not easy. Of being like, hey, we got a punter, we got a field goal kicker, and yeah, sure, we can call kickoff a starting spot. We got that too, and you got three dudes, and I think that's impressive. So I think they did a really great job in that room.
And Hanson was the holder at Colorado State too, so you
There
crossed
you
that one
go.
off their list. So
Everything's covered.
done.
Special teams done. Mike, we're done. I think we covered
Overachieved.
everything. It's a lot. This whole turnover thing is insane. 80 last year, going to be close to 80, if not more again this year. There may be some good takes and bad takes if we look back on this podcast and a year from now.
What's the X Files going to be like?
I don't know. It's difficult. Hey, no. Save that because I wanted to talk about it as thinking about how we could. Because for Tuesday morning's podcast, we're going to talk some basketball, but I was also going to share just some thoughts about transfer recruiting and how different it is. Because
Okay.
just I mean, you've been involved with it too. Obviously, you got your recruiting card on. You're talking to agents. You're
I'm not
breaking
calling in
stories.
though.
Yeah. So there's a couple things we can talk about for Tuesday's pod too.
Jazz Coleman, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. God,
I don't want to tell that story.
you should.
Yeah. Lots of stuff. Lots happening. Lots to catch online at earsports.com. Hey, Chris, the 50% off goes through the 19th, right?
Oh my goodness. Lucky dogs.
They said, Mike, should we make it 75% off? I said, do you want to write these stories by yourself? Because I'm not doing it. And they said, okay, we'll just do 50% off instead. So that runs through the 19th. Portal open until the 16th. You can come out anytime afterwards. You can only go until the 16th unless you're one of the various exceptions that exist. But pretty much anybody who's in there that is worth adding will be in there by the 16th, which is Friday, Chris.
Yep.
All right, we're going to hang up. We're going to come back tomorrow morning, talk about rejuvenated West Virginia basketball, big game at Houston. And then, man, look at that schedule. There's some opportunity.
Hmm.
Until then, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
Talk to you then.